Hello and welcome to The One Show with Matt Baker.
And Alex Jones. Now, joining us tonight is an 80s superstar who is back on tour with his classic hits, and he's gone to a lot of effort, and he's done it.
Especially for you.
And it's worked, because he's had to add more tour dates to avoid... Please welcome Jason Donovan! Oh, it's good to see you.
It's good to be here.
Really
Thank
good
you
to
for having
see you
me today.
Well, we'll talk all about the tour, but first, big news today. Forget Cameron and Boris Johnson. The big news is that Scott, from Neighbours, yourself, obviously, has a daughter.
I hear.
Which we didn't realise.
I love that, I hear.
I hear.
Because we actually told you, didn't we?
I did. Well, no, I did see something on Twitter, but it's funny, this whole soap opera after the soap opera.
Yeah. And it's been in the papers and everything.
She looks healthy.
She does.
She's attractive.
Well, yeah.
You know, what more could you want?
Yeah.
Very exciting stuff.
There you go. There's the picture. There's the picture.
My dad actually has just finished Neighbours actually himself.
Oh.
Yeah, he's been working on it for about 2 years. So,
Has he really?
Yeah.
So you've had that family connection there.
Yeah, my half-sister was in there for about 4 or 5 years. So it is a sort of a family affair. Yeah. I think any actor that's in Melbourne has to go through Neighbours at some sort of point in their life. You know.
Well, we'll talk more about that a little bit later on. But now, just over 4 weeks ago, the government announced a £20 million scheme for non-EU migrants to learn English, with the focus on Muslim women.
Fiona Foster went to meet one particular woman for whom learning English not only means British citizenship, but it's the bridge between her and her own children. Donovan. Your 10 Good Reasons tour is back on Friday, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So,
Friday.
in 20 seconds, we've got 3 good reasons, right, why people need to go and see it. It's a montage.
I like that one. Yeah.
Nice,
It takes you right back, doesn't it?
cheeky little look to the camera there towards the end.
I was so in love with you then.
Oh, Alex.
I am now, obviously.
What's happened? You're married? I'm married.
Oh, I know, this is going awkward.
If only, eh? Anyway, so just give us an idea then of how this tour's going to work, because you're singing the album, aren't you? You're doing it in
I thought, you know, that would be a really interesting way to sort of go out there and do something fresh. And for all those fans that sort of had bought that album, I mean, that sold extremely well in sort of 1989.
Well, it was the best-selling album.
Yeah, it was the best-selling album. So, you know, it was just an opportunity to really sort of relive that moment, you know, and I think music sort of puts you in a place and a time like no other sort of medium does. You can listen to those songs and sort of transports you right back to where you were and what you were doing. Alex?
Well, it takes me back like that. I can remember walking up the road to the shop, listening to it on my Walkman and thinking, why haven't I got a Jason in my life?
In double denim, with shoulder pads.
Yeah, and
thinking
some patches
if only
on the
one
knees.
day I could meet him. And here
you are.
Yes,
I know. But what do you remember then? Because you were 21 when you recorded the album. So, you know, what can you remember of your life at that time?
Well, I mean, it was pretty crazy for me back then, because Neighbours was such a big, you know, big success.
Yeah.
And, you know, I guess the music sort of became a part of the wave of that, you know. But I never really anticipated, you know, how successful it would become. And I was fascinated by music, probably more so than acting in a way, because you can create your own sort of story. But the combination of Stock Aitken Waterman and me and Neighbours was sort of, you know, the perfect storm, really. And those days, I mean, television you see now, you know, with things like X Factor, they build up the backstories of people so you fall in love with the characters. That's what sort of was the early incarnation, I suppose, with Neighbours and Stock Aitken Waterman in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, hopefully this tour is going to sort of bring back a few memories for lots of people.
And I'm guessing, I mean, a lot of those tracks didn't really go into a live situation. Have you not sung some of them before?
Well, I do a lot of those. I do a lot of those songs at festivals, but I've never sung, you know, the whole record as such. And, I mean, I think it's sort of interesting. They were very well crafted sort of pop songs in those days, and cut forward to today, where kids are on computers and they can cut and paste. You know, I think people really underestimate what how successful Stockade Camorton were.
Yeah, completely.
And the melodies, you know, such wonderful melodies, you know. I think the music probably has dated a little bit, but that's okay for people coming to see the show. So.
And that's why probably there's a big resurgence of 80s, isn't there? You know, the bands like Sonia and Tapao and Tiffany Think We're Alone Now.
I mean,
they all talk.
Double Denim.
Five Star.
Yeah, I think the 80s, I mean, I do a radio show on a Sunday night as well, and I think the 80s are sort of quite important, a little bit like the 60s. There was a lot of colour, MTV, you know, there was the visual aspect, not just the music. There was the clothes and the culture, you know. I don't know what happened. I think the 90s was a bit of a rebellion against the 80s in a way, and things like Nirvana and grunge, but I'm flying the 80s flag.
Well, this is the
Good
thing.
for you,
this week
Jason.
on the tour, definitely.
And your children will have seen you a lot. I mean, you said you're kind of match ready because of the stage work that you've done. They've seen you perform as an actor and all these wonderful characters on stage. Here they are going to see. Will they see you? Are they going to see you with Dad as the pop star back in the
They're extremely embarrassed, Matt. You know,
Are they?
extremely embarrassed. And very scared that I might be doing anything but standing behind a microphone. If I look like I'm going to dance, I'm sure they will keep their distance. But you know, I think they're excited at the fact that, you know, I'm working in a part of the business that can maybe express them to the front of a Justin Bieber queue or something like that. You know, that's where it's exciting.
Yeah, have they listened to the album and do they like any particular song on it?
I asked them to come down to rehearsals, and they quite frankly said they refused. I said, well, come for a ride on the bike, you know, come and get fit. Maybe a bit of work experience. Do you know what I mean? Just see how a few plugs are plugged. Not interested at all. Alex,
they're missing out. What can I say?
Yeah, they'll be there. They'll be there.
Right.
I can guarantee.
Well, Jason's tour begins, as we said, is on this Friday and is going right across the UK through until May.
Now, what is your child's favourite toy? Is it a games console, maybe a tablet, or that lightsaber that they used to fight Darth Vader with? All very expensive toys.
But here's the story of a pioneering teacher who brought bundles of joy to thousands of children. Those little bundles, they'd keep you entertained for hours, wouldn't they?
I know. On that note, I went down into the props cupboard and I made a little bag for you. There you go. Just a few little bits, a little marble, a little pot.
Well, if
There's
you'll
all sorts in
excuse
there.
me,
There you go.
I'll just...
I'll crack on here. Anyway, Ruth joins us now. We're surrounded by all these toys, which we're going to talk about in a moment. But before that, Ruth, we've got this photo, an incredible photo of Clara's fuel. By the way, those ladies were talking in that film, what a kind of an impact that she had on children's
Absolutely.
lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he brought in some
Really
lovely
inspirational.
toys from the 1800s and 1900s here, courtesy of Robert, who's over there. Now, where should we start? What about here, maybe?
Oh, yes, go on. That's really sweet, that one. I mean, most of these toys are the sorts of things that the children of Bow could not afford. I mean, this was what was called a penny toy, though, in fact, it probably cost about 2p at the time.
Which is quite a lot, then.
Well, it was. I mean, they would have had to have saved up about, you know, 2 or 3 months' worth of farthings, in order to afford one toy like that.
And where would that have been made, then? Where would
Well,
that have been
like
coming from?
most of the early 19th and early 20th century toys, it was made in Germany.
Right.
That was where Europe's toy industry was sort of centred. And so you can imagine, can't you, at the First World War, when we were at war with Germany, suddenly people going, I don't want German toys. And it provided a real impetus for a British toy industry to get started in order to have things made here and not in Germany.
We've come a long way. I'm watching this spin around, I can tell you that.
What was your favourite toy as a kid? What did you have?
Well, I was a bit of an Evel Knievel fan as well.
Oh, yes, I love it.
And he used
Did
to
you have the
wind
thing
up,
where you'd pull it
yeah,
up?
you used to wind it up, and his legs would be all sort of like flexible, and it'd end up sort of, which probably life imitating art, really.
There we go.
Yeah, you're still playing with that, though. You can't quite leave it alone.
What about this little Dutch doll?
Oh, isn't she lovely?
Can't touch.
Yeah,
We can't touch anything,
she's
no,
lovely.
okay.
I mean, simple little dolls like this, I mean, they're one of the things that if you had, just made those bundles even more special, because those bundles were full of little bits of fabric and bits of ribbon. You know, you could make clothes for your little simple wooden
could
dolls.
dress that
I could whip up something.
You could indeed, absolutely.
Never know, you see.
And this little box here of cards.
Well,
here
I
with
think
the
these are
picture.
rather fun. I mean, these are some of the very first sort of ideas of moving image toys. And it's just a card with, say, a picture of a pigeon on one side, and then a picture on the other side of a cage. And if you twist it, back and forth, and when you get it fast, it
Oh, yeah.
appears as if...
Yeah.
the pigeon's inside the cage.
Well,
It's a bit like the book,
illusion.
when you do a book
It's
and you
just
put dots.
the-
Oh, yes.
Like the flip books, yeah.
we've got a modern traumatrope here, look. If I just... See?
There we are.
Oh, very nice.
especially for you, we see.
Oh,
Especially
isn't that
for you.
nice?
We- this is where-
Tired, that was
Very old and antique
Yeah.
from the 19th and 18th century.
Now, we've got the phenakistoscope as well.
Oh, I'm
here.
impressed. Your ancient Greek's
sorry, you were
better
gonna
than
say that.
mine.
What was it again? What was it, Anne?
It's a phenakistoscope.
There we
I've
are.
been
See,
practicing
both
all
of you
day.
with your ancient Greek, marvellous. It means to deceive, and the idea was that it would deceive the eye. I mean, it's a really old idea. It was invented in 1829
Okay.
by a physicist.